Let's go!
Hey everybody, Coach Scott here, and I actually got this idea from Coach Elizabeth Murphy about a Christmas video. And for most of us, Christmas time is indeed the most wonderful time of the year, with all the holiday lights and the church services and family gatherings, and everybody's out shopping and having a good time, and then we exchange the gifts at our parties and so forth. But interestingly enough, it's easy to forget that some people, for some at least, the holidays are not the most wonderful time of the year. In fact, they're bittersweet for a lot of people, and sometimes they're actually very painful. And that's what I really want to talk about today. I want to really talk about, for some people, it is very painful to go through the holiday seasons, because some people mourn and they have this deep pain, maybe for the death of a parent or a grandparent or a child or a beloved friend that they've lost. They may be sad because a relationship has ended, or even a marriage has ended and didn't work out. And some children, as we've talked about in the past, some children actually wake up on Christmas morning and they don't have a parent, or they're orphaned, or their parents are deployed overseas, or they're absent from that day. And people who are hurting and lonely, and they're facing maybe health issues or some financial difficulties, or they're facing some kind of addiction, and some people are going through this time and they're unemployed and they're trying to find meaningful employment. And again, I think the reason why Christmas time is so painful for some people, it's because for some reason it just seems like everything is more intense at Christmas. It's more illuminated. It's just everything's right in your face at this time of year. And so for some people, that's a reminder of the things that didn't work out in their life, and the things that they mourn for, and the things that they wish they could go back and re-experience and relive. And I believe that all of us at one time or another have probably enjoyed the blessings of Christmas. I know I have. I know it's a time of year that I really sit back and I really take time to assess and really take a glimpse and be grateful for all the things that I have. But a lot of people struggle. So if you're struggling right now in this season, I want to remind you of a few things that I think will help you. I think that can give you a source of encouragement and can help you really start to enjoy this season again. And the first thing I want to remind you of is that the world may have forgotten you. The world may have thrown you some bad cards, but God has not forgotten you, and God sees you. Most importantly, He sees you. He sees the hurt, He sees the pain, He sees the loneliness. And many times when we're first injured or abandoned, or we experience some type of loss in our life, a lot of times people will come out of the woodworks and they'll offer help and encouragement to us. But after a while, guess what? Their life goes on too. And the support that they provided once when the event happened, it seems to fade away with time. And it's usually at this moment that we feel the full impact of that hurt, that loneliness, that depression. And that's the time we really need support the most. And Christmas, again, this season makes that situation worse, because a lot of times it seems like everybody else has what they need, and they're enjoying their life, and they're with their friends and family. And this is the most wonderful time of year for so many people, except for us. And so we need to remember that there is no season for God's love. There is no season for God's grace. And there's no season for God's care. And God is our strength. He's our shelter. And He's always ready to help us in times of trouble, even the Christmas season. The Lord Almighty God is with us, and if God be for us, then who can be against us? And that same God of Jacob is our God too, and it's our God of refuge. And so again, God is not distracted by all the celebrations and all the lights and all the work parties and all the things that we do as people to celebrate this time of year, the gifts. His attention is always focused on our needs and our suffering and our hurt. And one thing I know about God is God never wastes pain. He never lets a hurt go untended. And number two, like all things in life, this season is only temporary. It's going to pass. And I understand that Christmas can intensify our loneliness. It can intensify our pain. It can intensify our depression. But it doesn't have to lengthen it. It doesn't have to lengthen our pain. It doesn't have to lengthen the intensity of that. And many people lose hope because they think that the way they feel at this time of year will last forever. And that's not true. It's not going to last forever. Both the good times and the bad times, that this holiday season produces will only last for a short period of time. That's why they call it a season. So we just need to remember that life is a mixture of both. It's a mixture of good, it's a mixture of bad, it's a mixture of ups, it's a mixture of downs, and most of us will experience both of those sooner or later. And if you haven't experienced them both yet, just keep on living, because it's coming for you. Life is coming for you. And then the third thing that I want you to really think about is give yourself permission to celebrate. It's okay to celebrate this season. And some people, grieving at this time of year gives them a sense of comfort when you lose a loved one, or you have a loss or a setback or a past mistake. The bad things have happened in our lives, and it's happened to all of us. And there is comfort when you start to grieve. And Christmas seems to be a time and a trigger that grieving cycle begins to perpetuate in a lot of people. But in order to break that cycle, we need to remember what the wisest man that ever lived said about this, and that was King Solomon. In the book of Ecclesiastes 3, King Solomon said, "There is a time for every event under heaven. There's a time for grieving, and there's a time to stop grieving. There's a time for celebrating, and there's a time to stop celebrating." And it's helpful to remember that we don't need to confuse the times for grieving and the times for rejoicing and celebrating. And Christmas, guess what? Christmas in its very meaning is a time for celebration. It's a time to rejoice. It's a time to experience the fullness of God's grace and God's mercy and His greatest gift to humanity. And it's okay. It's okay to give yourself permission to laugh again. It's okay to give yourself permission to enjoy this season. It's okay to give yourself permission to rejoice and to feel happiness and hope for your future. But remember that happiness is a choice. And maybe, just maybe, perhaps the best gift that you can give yourself this Christmas season is the freedom to smile and be happy again without guilt. And you can do that. And you do have the ability to say yes to yourself, to give yourself permission to enjoy that freedom. So God bless you guys. Have a wonderful Christmas season. If there's anything we can do, please reach out to us and let us know. God bless you. Take care. We'll see you soon.